this. Oh, is that? Oh, it's gotta be him. It is. Yeah, look at that contaminated water, right? Oh.
You built this. Loneliness is often the byproduct of a gifted mind.
What is it?
Oh,
True.
this is real. We can be loners together.
Is that not the guy, Silco's scientist? Huh.
Good to see some things haven't changed. I heard your prognosis. I'm terribly sorry, my boy.
Do you contemplate death, Professor?
Only that of friends.
Yeah.
I suppose your legacy has been well secured. What haven't you to show for your remarkable life?
He's got regrets, I'm sure.
You should be proud of what you've accomplished, Victor. I have seen many students.
Oh.
It's a sad truth that those who shine brightest often burn fastest.
Yeah. Ominous. Beautiful. Wow.
There's quite a lot about me you don't know.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm sorry for disappearing last night.
Duty calls.
No, it's more than that.
Victor's dying. Victor saved my life once. Now he needs me, and there's nothing I can do.
I didn't realize he was so close.
He's like my brother.
Huh?
Nothing feels impossible when I'm with you.
Huh.
I'm in exile from my family.
What? Why?
I fell short of Madada's standards.
I don't believe that for a second.
Imagine those standards.
We can't change what fate has in store for us, but we don't have to face it alone.
Wow,
It's a
yeah.
beautiful painting.
The frame itself is quite beautiful as well, right? Oh. Ah. Oh. Oh, it's coming back to him.
Jack,
Jesus.
what's
Ah.
all the hubbub?
Boss wants us to grab someone up.
Someone? Anyone? Who are you
Oh.
grabbing?
Oh. She's still having the same drink?
Who are they? Why wasn't I invited to the party?
Hey, firelights. Okay, okay. Hold on. I swear, if that ends up being Echo, little man, he's the only one they haven't shown yet.
I feel like you and I got off on the wrong arm.
She's starting to feel like the Joker as well
Should
now.
try the other.
Ugh.
No need. It's your sister. She's
That was
back.
quick.
She's looking for you. It's not what you think. She's with some girl enforcer. Guess she replaced you.
You're lying.
Ah, about time.
Jeez.
you joined us. You were
Holy.
so busy. Little Ren here saw me in.
Oh, he's panicking. Oh my god.
You remember our old friend Vi, don't you? Vander's daughter? She
Oh,
was
boy.
about your age. There's an enforcer with her. A girl. Roughly
Yeah.
the same age.
He knows.
Caitlin, can't control her.
Then of what use are you?
Look at Silco. Look at Suave.
Oops. Oh, so sorry. Accidents happen.
He's got such screen presence, doesn't he?
It responds to organic matter.
Whoa. Jeez. Whoa.
This is unlike anything we've ever seen, Jace. It could be the key to augmenting physiology, extending life, curing you.
I can feel my body eroding. I'll have Sky bring Heimerdinger. He might know something that could help.
Desperate times,
meantime-
desperate measures.
We'll do what we do best.
Oh. It's a childhood hangout spot, huh? Beautiful, beautiful.
You topsiders always find a way to screw us.
I suppose Topside is to blame for all your misfortunes.
Not all of them.
We aren't monsters, you know. We're
She
people,
blames herself a
just
lot,
like you.
doesn't she?
You don't know anything about me. I shouldn't have left you.
It's all right. Despite it all, you have a good heart.
You've got a good heart.
I'm calling it the Hexcore.
Hexcore.
It's an adaptive rune matrix. Hextech that evolves. It's groundbreaking. What's most exciting is
Yeah.
how it reacts to biological matter.
He's not gonna like this. Oh.
You must destroy it. I've seen nations destroyed by a single seed, and it looked exactly like this. Is he all right? Wait.
Whoa.
Easy. That's Vi, right? Well, I'm a friend, or at least I was. I mean, I owed her old man my life.
Is that
Trade.
gone? That'll do.
Anyway, I don't want her to see me like this. Just tell her I'm sorry about everything. Okay?
Oh.
For now, we need to prevent any further attacks.
Short of searching everyone who crosses the bridges, I don't know how we can.
Then that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Are you certain? This sort of an order...
Do it. We have to protect the city.
We'll take vigilance.
Yeah,
We
it's
must
not
hold
easy.
each other accountable.
And who holds you accountable?
What?
Shimmer is rampant in the Undercity. Attacks at the Hex Gates and in the Academy Square. I'm sorry, Professor, but healing this city will take more than just speeches. Time and again, you've warned us what not to do. Humans don't live for centuries. We can't wait for progress. We need a leadership focused on the future, not the past. I believe it's time we gave the beloved founder of our city a well-deserved retirement.
Oh,
Please,
wow.
don't do this.
Vi!
Oh.
Easy.
Powder.
You used to live here. Who's Powder?
My sister. I thought she died, but no.
How do you not know if your sister is alive or dead?
It's hard to check up on people from inside a concrete cell.
What, you don't have parents?
No,
Oh boy.
they were killed by enforcers.
She's so cool. Jesus. He's here.
I've regretted that we've never had the opportunity to speak.
He wanted to speak. Yeah.
Oh, she is more than I ever imagined.
You talk too much. She prefers the puncher. Wherever you are, light it up, and I'll find you.
Oh. Goosebumps. Wow. Beautiful. Oh boy. History repeating itself. It is him, right? Oh.
I understand now.
Jeez. Wow. She'll come, she'll come. Hold on, hold on. Again, right on the edge.
Powder?
Why?
Oh, Powder! I'm so sorry, Powder. I tried to come back. I promise I did, but I got arrested. I never thought I'd see you again.
Are you real?
Yes, of course. It's me, Vi.
Things changed when you left. I changed.
I know. Pow, I know. You did what you had to do to survive. What matters is we're together.
That's ominous, though. Hold on.
Who's she? You're with an enforcer? Your sister is Jinx.
Caitlin, just listen.
Oh,
We can
God.
work this out.
It's Jinx now. Powder fell down a well. Stop talking to me like I'm a child! Was that why you came? For this stupid stone?
No, I don't even know what that is.
You're a class act, sister. Sister thought I missed her, but you wouldn't miss her. Everyone shut up! I need to think. Do you hear that?
This is gripping. Yeah. Oh, firelights. Oh God. This has got to be it. This has got to be Little Man. Yeah. This set piece though. Wow. That reaction time though. That's right, sis. Things changed. Oh. That's gotta be him. That's gotta be him. Oh man. Now she's gonna have that. Oh wow, that's it. I was expecting so much more still. Okay, wow, that just flew by. All right, man, episode 6. I mean, first of all, that's just crazy that I'm 6 episodes in and there's just 3 episodes left. Yeah, you know, time's just flying by, isn't it? For me, at least, it certainly is. Because to me, it almost feels like the beginning of 2023, the first, was just like a few days ago. You know, that's like the mindset I have at the moment, the feeling I have at the moment. I feel like I've been on this insane train ride, nonstop train ride since the first. But yeah, you know, I've been so busy that it's just been flying by. It's been slipping by. You know, it's kind of bittersweet because, you know, the whole concept of time, and, you know, I take it really quite seriously. You know, time and it always being so precious, and there's just not enough time. It feels like there's just never enough time. And, you know, that is a concept that is quite timely as well, given the nature of the story in this episode, and perhaps the story arc as a whole for a few of these specific characters. Victor specifically, who I was so happy to get a focus on in this episode. You know, there's quite a major focus on him. Finally. You know, I get a look at his past, you know, in that beautiful cold open. the visual storytelling continues to be just brilliant. I've got a few standout moments that I'm going to touch on. But that moment as he is trying to chase down his boat, right? It's kind of symbolic of his body not actually being able to keep up with his intellect, right? His mind, his body is giving out. But yeah, also because of that, he does kind of run into someone who ends up being a mentor figure. Now, I was pretty sure that is the same guy, Silco's scientist, the guy who essentially created or developed and perfected, perhaps, Shimmer, right? And the role of Shimmer, I don't think should be overlooked in Undercity. Yes, in high doses, it's just legitimately terrifying, the effect it can have on people, right? And of course, addiction is certainly a part of it. They kind of alluded to this a long time ago through the character of Deckard, right? The addictive nature of this substance, Shimmer. But listen, just like Hextech has kind of changed Upside or Piltover, Shimmer has also played a part in developing and changing the landscape of Undercity. But the only difference is regulation, right? Because up until this point, Upside, Piltover really regulated Hextech, right? You see the outgoing Heimendinger. Listen, actually, before I go any further, am I saying it right? I've been saying Heimerdinger. Is it Heimendinger or Heimerdinger? Sometimes I'll look at the spelling and I'll just kind of try to say it how I see it. But I think it's Heimendinger, right? And the R might be silent. Let me know, But yeah, you see that he played a crucial role in kind of regulating and keeping it in check, keeping some of these youngsters, some of the young guns in check, young gun like Jace, and always reiterating that it needs to be safeguarded. It needs to be tested, trial and error, all of that, right? Oh, a decade or so, and you should be fine. But there you also have the problem, right? To him, a decade is nothing. It's gone in a snap of a finger for an immortal, right? And ultimately, I think that aspect of it, his immortality, certainly plays a major part in this departure as well. It feels like it was always kind of going to lead to this, that ultimately his approach and his results are going to be questioned, especially given the really timely nature of the current problem that Jace has. And that problem is his friend's problem as well, right? His brother. That's his brother, as he mentioned in this episode. And I loved hearing that. I loved seeing Jace really kind of, get riled up on his behalf, on Victor's behalf. And, of course, he didn't like the idea of destroying this new discovery of theirs, right? The Hexcore, new name. And of course, I'll come back to this portion or this segment. Let me kind of, shift the focus back to Shimmer and the role it has played in Undercity, over the span of that timescape, essentially. Ultimately, the dose is the big talking point here. In small doses, in the right doses, it can actually be quite beneficial. You see that he himself injects Shimmer into his eye, right? You see the immediate effect it had on Vi as well, right? But then you also see the dark side of Shimmer and the destructive qualities of Shimmer and the impact it can have on a person physically, mentally. You see that one guy, ultimately he does kind of end up, selling them out just for a dose, for a fix, right? Because that's the impact of it on his body over the years. And also on that front, let me kind of go through a few characters and try to get it straight and try to maybe pose a question to you guys as well, if I do have some of them mixed up or if I am on the right track. So the mentor for Victor, that is the scientist guy, right? That does work with Silco, right? I kind of forgot, in that one scene, I kind of forgot the time skip. I saw his look. His face looked to be quite scarred and, half of it was covered up. So there I thought, okay, this is maybe a different character altogether, but no, it actually might be him. So, just confirm that for me. But I'm pretty sure that is him. And look at this guy, this scientist guy who's just almost presented initially as this side character, right? A supporting cast member. Here you see the impact he's had on one of the major characters of this show. He himself is actually quite a major character at this point, right? In terms of the role he plays in the trajectory of Victor, in the life of Victor, right? And now it's come full circle because by the end of it, you see, he returned home. He returned to his mentor, because he knows this is the man who can help him in this really tricky and unique situation, right? The mutation must survive. I understand now, right? Ultimately, Victor, he needs to live on. He needs to be around to realize his dreams, right? His goals. And I think, death is not something he's fearful of in the sense that, oh no, I'm just going to die now. This is it for me. Sure, you see in the opening, he's tackled that for sure, right? Try to come to terms with his condition and, his ticking time bomb, essentially. I feel that he feels that death is actually this limit, this time limit on his ambitions, right? If only there was more time, if only. And I think he is now on this path that might potentially get him more time, but at a cost, right? It's certainly, that approach of the ends justify the means, isn't it? The mutation must survive at all costs, right? Any means necessary. He wants to do this so he can be around to help all the people he wants to help, the people that need help, right? His people, the needy, the unfortunate, people that remind him of himself at that age. He wants to grow beyond his insignificant background to be able to do that, right? All of that. It's always been the case. I think it's always been the case. It was set up so adequately, so perfectly, that this is his end goal. These are the things he wants. Now listen, Jace also kind of bought into that. He wants that too. And he kind of gets it out there. He puts it out there in that meeting he has, or, he goes to Medarda's apartment or her suite, her penthouse, right? Who's quite the painter. Of course, she's really quite the talented individual herself, isn't she? Quite the impressive individual herself. And, at this point, I'm even beginning to think it's grown beyond her just manipulating Jace. There is a connection there at this point. There is, right? And, before I move on from that, I like the touch of, making it so it actually feels like she cares about her homeland, her nation, her country, to get the details right. I felt that, kind of showcasing the making of the paint and the care that's going into it. And the painting itself, of course, really kind of gives you an insight in terms of how much she might miss her nation, even though she was exiled, right? That's a crazy situation as well, because she was not up to standard, almost as if she was a disappointment. This individual was a disappointment, apparently. So the standards are kind of insane down there. But yeah, I did think it was a great scene. And, she ultimately kind of implores him to go be with your friend, your brother, right? He needs you at this time. And you see there is this shift in demeanor the moment she finds out that, one, his partner is dying, and two, how much he means to him. And, she kind of changes accordingly at that point, right? Her tone, her approach, her demeanor, everything just kind of changes at that point. Because earlier, as he comes in, she is a little bit spiky, a little bit standoffish about last night. But yeah, I think she's a great character. She really is. And she continues to be quite the interesting character from episode to episode as I get to see different sides of her. But the thing that was really noticeable about that scene is actually the transition. I mean, it's a beautiful frame of her and Jace, right? Every frame a painting, as you see a beautiful painting in the background as well of the actual frame of the show, but it transitions to Victor. But he's essentially inside of the Hexcore, right? It was so symbolic at that moment. There was something really quite jarring about that sight, that he's kind of being consumed by this Hexcore. And then, he comes to realize, okay, on that day, a few days ago, I suppose, his blood actually reacted, or the Hexcore actually reacted to his blood, right? And then, of course, from that point on, he figures a few things out, and he shows Jace. And the thing to note here is Heimdinger's expression at seeing this, his first impression of seeing this thing, is one of horror, isn't it? Because like I mentioned a few episodes ago, even someone like Heimendinger has his own ghosts, doesn't he? Has his own trauma. You see a lot of his own PTSD kicks in. I've seen it twice now, right? This time, once again, he has that image of that mage, right? And this time, again, it's the same imagery inside of the Hexcore, but it's orange. And that in itself plays such a major role in Heimdinger's approach to everything. It had such an impact on him, and it still does, that he just immediately sees anything reminiscent of that, something that could build towards that once again. And his first inclination is to shut it down, right? Shut it down at this point, right? He can see years and steps ahead. He's been there. It's a gift and a curse, right? It's a gift and a curse, being alive for hundreds and hundreds of years. Listen, ultimately, I think he'll be spot on about everything he's saying here. Ultimately, these warnings, these tales of the past and the dangers of getting this in the wrong hands, or putting this in the wrong hands, without safeguarding it first. And to do that, you need to spend years, decades, right? I feel that in these next 3 episodes, or leading up to the conclusion of this season, some of these warnings are going to end up being quite accurate, I think. Because now you have these individuals who are ready to push in the name of progress, who are ready to take the risk, right? I have a whole segment for that. I'll come back to that in a bit. Now, let me go circle all the way back to my characters. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a scientist guy, and he's Victor's mentor. Then there is, let's see. Yeah, the glasses guy who betrayed them, essentially. That's the guy from episode 1, right? The guy there's some kind of deal going on, and Vander comes in to back him, right? To be in his corner at that moment. I believe that's him, right? He said, her old man saved my life, or helped me once upon a time. It's sad to see the person he's become. It's tragic. It really is quite tragic to see all of this, isn't it? Another thing this episode really excels in is reiterating how the system has failed the people in Undercity. And unfortunately, our Heimendinger has played a part in that as well, right? Because of his approach, because of just his nature. And in terms of another person whose identity is essentially kind of unknown, but you can kind of gather and infer who it might be. And I'm speaking of that scene as Vi comes to, but she's in a bit of a daze. And, on one end, she'll see young Powder, right? I love how she had that image of her in her mind that whole time. Of course, she herself has a lot of guilt, a lot of regret. I shouldn't have left you, right? Of course, Kate thought she's talking to her. But something nice came out of that as well. Despite all of this, I know you have a good heart. Just like Vander told her all that time ago. But yeah, the other person, it wasn't Kate, So I'm thinking surely that's got to be the mom, right? The mother, their mother. So it's interesting that, she's seeing her mother in Kate. Unless, of course, she's not actually even seeing Kate at all, and she's just hallucinating, or just in a daze, in a dream, and she's just seeing those two, right? Her family, her mom and Jinx right beside her. But yeah, I thought it was a great touch to have that. There's actually a lot of really subtle moments in this episode. At one point, Jinx is interrogating Savika, and, as she puts a blade close to her or by her, you see in the blade, it's Vi, isn't it? A quick flash of her. Actually, let's just focus on that. Really sad moment. There's actually a lot of sad moments in this. Oh my goodness, of course. I'll get to the reunion. As you can tell, I'm kind of saving that. I'll get to it, of course. I'll get to it. But listen, I'm a big fan of Victor, as you know. And I'm a big fan of Silco as well. It was actually really intriguing and jarring and interesting to see Silco kind of lose control at that moment, almost as if his world is falling apart around him. Everything he's built, the person he's built up, everything is falling apart. It might be taken away from him, right? So to see him just lash out and freak out and start kicking the shit out of that one person who I think took the shimmer, right? Who he gave the shimmer to. Hell, he might have actually killed him. He might have killed the fucking guy. It was quite the moment, quite the scene to see him, a person who's so controlled, so calculated, so menacing, just in his silence, his screen presence, or his presence. To see him freak out in that manner, oof, that is some sight. That is some sight. I'm sure he'll gather himself. But yeah, in terms of Heimendinger getting voted out, it's got to be one of the saddest moments of the series, right? But the thing is, the characters of this story have been so nuanced, right? That you can understand the faults of Heimendinger as well. The role he's played in the continuing concerns of Undercity. And then, of course, beyond beings like Heimendinger, you have the human characters in the show that are just so beautifully human and authentic, so beautifully flawed, aren't they? So authentic. I love it. I just love it. You can honestly look at every single character and look at their struggles. Look at the pros and cons. Look at their good side. Look at their bad side. Look at their disposition. Everything is just so juicy, isn't it? So much to just appreciate and dig into. But Heimendinger, yeah, you see that unfortunately and ultimately it is a person, a being out of touch. And again, his immortality plays a part in that. Surely it has to, right? Once you live that long, once you experience so many things, the concept of urgency is not something that is even a part of his rule book, essentially, right? He is more than happy to be patient. He's the most patient man there is, or the most patient being there is, right? His years, his immortality allows that patience. Unfortunately, the concept of him being so nonchalant about something like a decade, a few episodes ago, telling both Jace and Victor, oh, don't worry, it'll just be a few years, a decade or so should do it. To him, that's nothing. That's a snap of a finger, essentially. But then you look at someone like Victor, no, man, you see the panic in his face as he's trying to, kind of reach out. And I remember Jace is kind of, telling him to calm down, kind of putting an arm out. You see the panic in his face at that moment. A decade, I'm not even sure if I have a month. Here's an individual who most definitely likes to see the big picture, tends to see the big picture, right? And, his idea of science is that the best type of science is the safest type of science, no matter how long it takes. But then you see that there is a clash of ideas. He is really quite idealistic, isn't he, in his approach? I mean, he's certainly all about safety over progress, isn't he? And, that segment from his speech about, the loosening of morals in exchange for pride and prestige kind of alludes to this as well, right? But then on the flip side, this approach of trying to prevent major disaster from happening, it adds up over the years, over the decades. He has unknowingly kind of contributed to so many little disasters in Undercity that have just kind of accumulated over the years and now given us the current situation that Jace is, certainly quite upset about. And how I mentioned that he's able to look at the big picture, or he tends to look at the big picture. Ultimately, he's not able to, or he's not open to exposing calamitous dangers to the world, right? In order to save just one life, right? Yes, it's harsh. But the thing is, Jace is open to doing that. Jace is ready to do that to save, or to help save, the life of his partner, his friend, his brother, right? That's the big difference here. Jace is not about the big picture at the moment, not at all. But listen, like I said earlier, I do think it's going to bite them in the ass. They're certainly better off having Heimendinger on the council, ultimately, I think. And I think they'll find out. But also, the thing I loved about the approach in this scene is, look at how it begins, right? You've got Heimendinger center frame, right? And as the scene plays out, and as the tension is starting to escalate, and it's building towards the questioning of Heimendinger and his authority, and his approach over the decades, and the things that have happened under his watch. But then notice how the camera is slowly cutting him off, kind of pushing him towards the side of the frame, right? Almost cornering him, essentially. And I'd say at one point, maybe 25% of his face is actually cut off as well, right? It's a really tight shot, but it's really quite distinct because he's kind of stuck in that corner. He's backed into a corner. And center frame then becomes Jace, right? Begins with Heimendinger, but by the end of it, Jace is center frame. That is just beautiful, beautiful visual storytelling on display, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, you know, this is the face of Piltover. This is the man for the future, and they got it. They certainly got it now. So let's see how it plays out. But yeah, you know, like I mentioned earlier, Victor has returned to his mentor, and now he understands. You know, of course, in that flashback, in the backstory portion of this, he's kind of disgusted by the treatment of Rio, right? The creature who is still around. You know, I mean, he has mutated into something else entirely, but still around, right? So it's really quite ominous, the foreshadowing there, you know, potentially thinking of the person or the thing Victor could end up becoming, right? Listen, this right here, his mentor, the scientist who kind of specializes or mastered Shimmer, he specializes in mutation, doesn't he? Right? So maybe he can have the answer to this question, this code they're not able to crack at the moment, right? And it's all about getting organic matter to accept the Hexcore. But yeah, you know, it's one of those moments, isn't it? On one end, I'm really quite happy that Victor is fighting for this, right? That there is a possibility of him prolonging his life. And yes, of course, sometimes progress is not all nice and neat. It can be dirty. It can. But yeah, on the other end of that, you know, there's a concerning angle of this. The person he could end up becoming. Right then, let's get to the reunion, the emotional, the beautiful reunion, also the heartbreaking reunion. I mean, you know, it is in a bubble, isn't it? You know, there's a moment, you know, for a moment in time, to both of them, and especially to Powder or to Jinx, it feels like everything is right in the world at this moment in time. You see that the moment she hugs her big sis, the moment they finally see each other, something changes. It's almost as if she's lived this moment hundreds of times in her mind, that she's maybe hallucinated about this moment. One of the most heartbreaking points from this is her actually asking her, legitimately asking her, are you real? Jeez, man, come on. Yeah, so, you know, to me, it feels like she's thought of this moment. It's kind of played out in her mind over the years, over and over. To me, it even felt like she was kind of transported back to that alley on that fateful day, that fateful night, the night they got separated, right? You see Powder. At that moment, you really do get to see Powder once again. And I love the detail of focusing on her gemstone, right? Dropping the gemstone. Because at that moment in time, none of that mattered. There's only one thing that mattered. It's her big sis. It's her family. And she lets it just kind of roll away, doesn't she? Just like that. Just like that. It didn't mean anything anymore in that moment, in that bubble. But you see that bubble does burst. And this happens the moment Caitlin comes in, right? Because at that moment, yeah, you know, a lot of those self-image issues start coming back in. It's like, hold on. You know, Savika was right. She is hanging out with an enforcer. You know, is this someone who's replaced me? You know, and the one thing she knows about her sister from all that time ago is that she hates enforcers. Yet here she is buddying up with an enforcer, right? And at that moment, you know, she starts rejecting that idea. Oh, my sister does want me. You know, I am good enough. You know, she does love me. And then, you know, these notions of, oh, I'm being tricked. I'm being played. It just takes over, doesn't it? And, you know, and it's heartbreaking because, you know, the shootout and the encounter, the set piece, incredible set piece as the firelights come in, as that takes off, you see Vi getting to see her sister and what's become of her sister, right? You see, the look on her face is one of shock, isn't it? You know, she's shooting people down. She's enjoying it. Yes, on one end, on some level, yes, it's a little bit impressive that she's kind of grown into this person, you know, that she can take care of herself. But then, yeah, you know, to see her sister after all this time, to have this type of rage, this type of enjoyment in trying to kill people, it's a tough one for her to take. And you see she's really quite distracted. and she gets knocked out because of it. That's how jarring it is for her. But you know, I've got to say, seeing them go back to back as the firelights come in, it's one of the coolest moments of the entire show. But even leading up to it, right? Her lighting up the blue flare, the blue smoke, beautiful moment. It's one of the best moments of the entire show. And of course, the song selection there, the soundtrack. Wow, beautiful. That whole scene as it plays out is just beautifully executed. You know, the moment the camera is panning, or sorry, circling around Powder or Jinx, you see Clagger, you see Milo, right? But this time they're calm, right? The ghosts of her past, the past that she carries at all times, right? The past that haunts her. The past that she brings into every single situation. And also I love how organic it felt that Vi does end up kind of looking up, right? She just runs into some guy and she's a little bit angry at the moment. She kind of just, you know, has to get some of that out. But then she naturally just kind of looks in that direction. But yeah, the actual embrace after they see each other, it's one of the most beautiful moments I've seen in anything really recently. Like, it's impossible not to be emotional in that moment, right? Yeah, but again, you know, it only lasts for a few moments because of a lot of complications, right? You know, there's this new dynamic now as well, Caitlyn and Jinx. Let's see how all of that plays out as well. And then, of course, there's the Firelights. And I think this final character that I still have to see since the time skip is going to be a part of the Firelights. And I'm speaking of Lil Man. Surely, you know, surely he's got to be there. You know, the fact that they're all masked and the fact that he stops that last person from killing her, I feel like, yeah, that's got to be him. So that's my take on that. But yeah, the moment the black smoke dissipates and Jinx sees that, oh my God, I've lost her again. You know, I lost my sister again. Whew, you know, that scratchy visual element kind of kicks in as well. You know, and usually that's indicative of her trauma coming out or being triggered. Hell, she might even be thinking at that moment, is this even real? Did any of that even happen? Was that just another hallucination? I mean, you know, ultimately, these two needed a controlled setting to meet again, right? To talk it out, to let it all out, explain things to each other, how things have been, how they've changed, and the things they needed to do to change. Though there is an understanding of that there already. But unfortunately, there are a lot of unpredictable elements to this, right? You have Caitlyn who comes into the mix and triggers Jinx. Then you have the Firelights coming into the mix. You know, Caitlyn also got knocked out. And they have the gemstone as well, don't they? But yeah, in terms of Caitlyn, you know, you really get to see her compassionate side once again. You really get to see her true character on display once again. You see that it only took a few moments with that man, that person, and she could just tell the pain and suffering this individual has gone through, and she plants a hug on him. That gesture alone might have meant so much to him, right? To be embraced in that manner. But, you know, speaking of gestures, she ends up trading her gun for Vi, doesn't she? Right, so she can get better because there's a dying person over there, and you know, this also might be a person she's beginning to care for. There's, you know, hints of that there. You know, it's really quite subtle at the moment, isn't it? But yeah, you know, I think that's a big step, isn't it? Because, you know, first of all, that's a gun that she can use to protect herself, and you know, the gun itself is really quite symbolic as well, isn't it? So for her to, you know, trade that in at a moment's notice, I think it's a big deal. But lastly, I just wanted to mention a few more things. You know, things like Jinx going into the last drop and that one guy, the bartender, just being petrified. He's so on edge, right? But I love that touch. It's such a lovely touch. You know, it's the same cup. It's the same drink that Vander used to pour out for her. So I love that. I just love that aspect of it. And, you know, also, kind of going back to the cold open, as it transitions from his childhood, Victor's childhood, that is, to him, you know, going back to that spot, and you know, Heimendinger comes in. You know, I love that he tells him, you know, you should be proud of yourself, of your accomplishments, because you do see then and there on display the change that was possible because of him, right? It's the same place, right? But you see the water is crystal clear at this point, right? No pollution. You see elements of his boat, his mechanical boat, are even on display in the background, right, on a larger scale. So yeah, I thought that was a lovely moment as well. You know, just them two together. I really like that. Heimendinger and Victor. I mean, there's a shot in that moment, in that scene, that actually might end up being my thumbnail Even though, you know, of course, the more glaring thumbnail choice is the reunion moments, right? But you know, there's a shot there that is just jaw-dropping. Ooh, also, one last thing. I did kind of go back to confirm the assistant's name. It is Sky, the one who does seem to care for Victor quite a bit. Turns out it is that girl then, right? Because her name is also Sky. Now, you know, initially I just didn't connect the two because I didn't know that was her background as well. I didn't know she came from the same, you know, area as Victor. I just thought they kind of met later in life, in, you know, in that setup, in that situation. But yeah, how lovely is that? But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in early access to the next few episodes right now, or perhaps even timer-based full length, consider checking out the Patreon page and supporting the channel. If you're interested, check out the links in the description and the pinned comment. Also links to social media, if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.